Hi there. My name is Kimberly Ernest, and I'm a licensed psychologist and licensed professional counselor in Pennsylvania. I am coming to you today via Zoom to offer you some tips and tricks on ethical telehealth practice during the times of COVID-19. In the last couple of weeks, I think all of us have kind of been challenged, both personally and professionally, to ensure that our clients are cared for while also trying to manage some of our own anxieties. For some of us, that anxiety might be associated with trying to use all new technology to connect to the people that we've been supporting, sometimes for many years. So I'm talking to you through a Zoom platform, and I'm here to tell you that just a few weeks ago, I hadn't even heard of Zoom, let alone been able to use it for a training. I've been training as a trainer for many years now, about 5 or 10 years, in different capacities, and taught at an academic level, at an undergraduate level as well. So I'm used to teaching. I am not used to Zoom, and I'm here to tell you that prior to this, I wasn't the most tech savvy individual either. But to offer a little bit of comfort that if I'm able to do it, you're able to do it. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the guidelines and tips and tricks from all of our different professional organizations on how to ensure that we are using ethical best practice when it comes to connecting to our clients via remote technology. Specifically, there's a lot of unique barriers. For example, you can hear the birds in the background, but I am on my back porch right now at home. This is unique. Prior to COVID-19, I don't know that I would have dreamed of doing a training in this particular setting. But with schools closed and I am a mother to two young boys, the inside of my house certainly isn't an option. And I guarantee these birds you're hearing in the background are at least quieter than my own beautiful offspring. So we are going to jump right into it and start talking about very specific guidelines when it comes to supporting our clients remotely. And what I'm going to do is here through Zoom, I am doing a paid account, which allows you to record, have unlimited participants in each group, and doesn't limit the time or length of each session. This is an excellent option for those of you who are seeking to do telehealth groups. Now, I can share my screen with you all, which I'm going to pop up my PowerPoint as we work through some of these very specific options and some of these very specific aspects of telehealth service. But Zoom is an excellent option because the paid version is 100% HIPAA compliant and offers end-to-end encryption to ensure the safety and security of your clients. So a couple of different things that's really important to keep in mind is that even though we are doing things completely differently, and that crazy thing called coronavirus or novel coronavirus or COVID-19 kind of turned everything on its head. Despite all that, we still need to ensure that we are operating using ethical best practices and applying all of the same ethical codes and guidelines from our individual sessions to our remote sessions as well. So while this is unique in that I am talking to you all from my back porch, I am speaking to you from a secure and confidential location. There's no one else around me right now that could hear our conversation in an effort to violate confidentiality. And that is essential to anything, that you're ensuring that the space that you function from is secure. You also want to make sure that you're documenting everything accurately and correctly. Sometimes different barriers might get in the way, such as technology barriers or other things that could interfere with the ability to have the full session. Just make sure you're changing your CPT codes and billing consistent with the time actually spent face-to-face with the client. You also want to make sure that you're accurately documenting the method of provision. So if you are doing a telephone session, document that it's a telephone session, internet or in person. Some of us are still having our practice open for live sessions, live in-person individual sessions for especially those high-risk clients that struggle with access to technology. And so at any one day, we might have all three different types of sessions. Just make sure that you're documenting that accurately and correctly. The provider should still complete progress notation and clinical documentation in a timely manner and whatever is consistent for your own practice. And last but not least, you really want to make sure that you're using a secure platform. I am using Zoom today. I think this is a great option for individual providers, but you also have a program called Doxy.me, which allows you to share a link with a client and they can jump into your waiting room, and then you actually just click connect, and it is the same video chat technology. Doxing.me is a free service, or is available on a free platform that's 100% HIPAA compliant, but it does have some limitations in the free platform. It's important that you review some of the barriers of telemental health, specifically how confidentiality could be compromised, and a couple of other things, just to review with the client the differences and receive their consent that they are interested and willing to opt into telehealth. In certain situations, depending on the insurance or the provider, you may be unable to see a client without a signed consent in the chart. You can do this through a couple different ways. You can go the old school route and actually print out and mail a telehealth consent to your client. You could also use a online platform. So some of your options would be to create something in Adobe and send it so it can be signed electronically with someone's finger on a smartphone. Or an alternative option would be using a service like DocHub, which allows you to upload consents and email to a client via a web-based platform. Then they can sign and submit securely to you. Regardless of whether or not the consent is received prior to session, it is really important, and that would be based on whatever funding source you're utilizing and individual regulations in your state. Regardless of that, it's essential that you review with the client and document that you talked about it, that you had a conversation, that they understand that telehealth offers a lot of the same benefits to in-person therapy, but there are a few drawbacks. And one of those limitations might be confidentiality, especially in a group setting. I can ensure that my space is secure, but I can't ensure a client's space is secure. So if the client is having a session in their bedroom and their spouse walks in, or a child, I have no control over that, and they're really responsible for ensuring their own confidentiality in those areas. Also, to discuss with them that if you're emailing back and forth with the client, while most providers pay to have HIPAA compliant email platforms and email services, many clients use free web-based platforms such as Gmail. And it's fairly well documented that some of those platforms are not HIPAA compliant. So just to be mindful of, while things on your end are secure, you can't ensure the security of the client. It's also important to ensure that you are using a secure internet connection so that your internet requires a passcode to access it. We are seeing an increase this time during this unique experiment that's called COVID-19. We are seeing an increase in cyber attacks. So to be mindful that you're utilizing secure internet is important. When it comes to HIPAA, many states have laxed some of their HIPAA requirements. However, it's still important for you to maintain client confidentiality and be aware of what specific regulations may or may not have changed within your given jurisdiction. It's also important to note that there are differences between mental health and drug and alcohol regulations in many states. And to take that a step further, just to make things a wee bit more complicated, also across funders, there are different insurances that are willing to pay for one form or modality. So some insurances will pay for both phone and telehealth, whereas others are saying, hey, we will not fund phone sessions. It's got to be through a secure web-based platform. It's also important that the client that the provider communicate to the client that they're in a private location and ask the client to do the same thing. Not all of our clients have the same level of boundaries that you or I might feel most comfortable with. We want to ensure that the client is engaging in safe practices to protect their own confidentiality. To do telehealth via a webcam, it's important that your technology is working. Practice with your audio video, connect with a colleague, and use your Doxy.me a couple of times, or a friend or family member, to get practice. And still, it's not going to be perfect. I think it's important to recognize that we are all doing our best with a very unique situation and trying to change and meet the needs of our clients during a very high stress, high risk time for for the country, not just for any unique single individual. So even as I started this training, I've heard different alarms go off in the background and things like that on my computer. And it's things that I genuinely don't know how to turn off. Talk to your clients, apologize, communicate. Um, Make sure that you're practicing and trying to address any technology barriers prior, to ensure that you have some safety or security. If it's not operating correctly, here in the state of Pennsylvania, we have gotten permission from our MCOs to do sessions via telephone. Many of our clients, we serve very high risk, high needs populations that have a tendency to not have access to all of the same resources that perhaps you or I would. Some of those resources include technology, laptops, smartphones, secure internet, and different internet companies are offering basic essential packages for free to low-income families, especially as kiddos' schools seem to be transitioning to more online instruction. So that's something to explore what resources might be available in your local area and communicate and confirm that with your clients. Upon connecting with the client, the provider should ask for a good callback number just to make sure that if in the middle Doxy.me kicks you out, or your Zoom meeting goes awry, or your internet crashes, or whatever could happen next, that there's a way to connect to the client and ensure safety afterwards. It's always best to try to reconnect via a web-based platform, but if for whatever reason that's not an option, for many insurance products and private pay, it is appropriate to finish the session on the phone. I would just encourage you to do your due diligence in ensuring what is the best practice for that particular client, your particular state, the particular regulations, and that particular funding source. I think it's important to recognize that this isn't going to feel comfortable for anyone out the gate. It's going to be awkward. I've seen some funny memes about people like really close to the camera and all kinds of other bizarre kind of things. Just recognize that telemental health might not feel totally normal right away, but what I can tell you, my own personal experience with it has been that as time has gone on, I feel more and more confident and comfortable communicating with individuals in this way. I think that our clients will habituate to it, and so will you. So just to connect to our clients the best we can and bring that relationship, bring that human experience to help soothe and calm and support through what is a very uncertain time, whether it be our clients struggling with health related concerns or economic uncertainty, perhaps an increase in symptoms or a lack of access to resources as various programs are shut down. I think it's just important for us to overcome our own anxiety and not share it with the client as we connect. So technology may terrify you. You might have to use I personally am married to an IT guy, so I use my spouse very frequently when I'm struggling with technology related concerns. So you might need to use a family member or a close personal friend that can connect remotely and support you through this, but also do what you've got to do to practice and not have to share that anxiety with your client, so that when you are connected in that virtual room, you're truly one-minded and focused on the client and their clinical presenting problem. I think it's really important to ensure your own professional safety throughout all of this and to be mindful that you still should, and it's important to continue to maintain very clear professional boundaries with your clients. So if clients are saying, "Oh, well, let's go ahead and connect on Facebook," or "What's your cell phone? I'll go ahead and text you." There are certain lines that perhaps we should leave drawn in the sand. So I would, if you weren't in the practice of connecting to clients in this way prior to COVID-19, I would say that technology shouldn't change any of that. The provider is responsible for ensuring the same level of ethical practice in telehealth compared to face-to-face sessions. And depending upon your particular discipline, I know the American Psychological Association, American Psychiatric Association, social workers, professional counselors, guidelines have been released for ethical telemental health from each of those organizations. I would strongly encourage you to review your own ethical guidelines specific to your discipline. If a client is presenting in crisis or as an emergency, still call crisis, get the client connected to appropriate face-to-face care. We don't want access to services to have any long-term consequences for any of our clientele. If at any time a provider is feeling uncomfortable or has any ethical concerns, reach out to a trusted colleague, contact a supervisor, connect with a peer. You can also reach out to many professional organizations that will allow for ethical consultation. I think that it's important during this unique, unprecedented time that we not expect to have all the answers. And there are times where we're going to have to get outside of our own head and get connected with somebody that might be better equipped to give us a second opinion or something from a little bit of distance. I think the provider also should ensure that you're using the correct CPT code if you're billing. And if you're not sure, I know that this isn't always everyone's favorite part of being a clinician. Make sure that you're talking to somebody, whether it be your represented, your clinician representative at an insurance company, or just a trusted colleague or an office administrator, whatever it might be. Make sure you're reaching out and communicating with your administrative eyes and ears to make sure that you're engaging in ethical telehealth practices. So these are just a few resources that I've pulled together. The American Psychological Association, the PA Department of Human Services is where a lot of my information has come from, but also looking at country and system-wide ways that we can take our typical or our traditional in-person practice and make it appropriate for telehealth. I thank you all for your time and attention and for connecting to me in this way. I know that this is a very unique training platform, but I'm excited for the opportunity to share a little bit of information with you all, and I wish you all the best health and safety during this very unique time. And please, if nothing else, when it comes to ethical telehealth practice, one of the most important things is that you're ensuring that you're taking care of you. I think for a long time, people have said like, oh, I would love to work from home. Let me tell you, as someone who's done it for the last couple of weeks, it can be exhausting. It's tiring staring at a screen all day. I know that communication for clinician and client is often beyond the verbal, but through body language or facial expressions. And I think that it's important to be mindful that you're flexing in new and different muscles. So give yourself grace through all of this. I thank you again for your time and attention. I hope that this has been useful. But anyway, best of luck to everyone, and I wish you health and safety through this all. All right, bye-bye.